Hey friends, it's Michelle here with Garden Jargon, and I'm out here in my garden today and I'm planting tomatoes. Can you even believe it? I'm planting tomatoes in my garden at my house today, and I planted all the tomatoes with the help of all of my volunteers at the church garden, so that garden's in the ground. I have 3 more gardens to plant. It is the 31st of May. In my eyes, I'm about 2 weeks behind. We could have probably planted these about 2 weeks ago, but with weather pending and rain and too wet, and it's just been a hot mess. So I'm finally getting some stuff in the ground, and I always do my best to share with you how to put something in the ground or tips and tricks. So today the video is about how to plant a tomato to do its best to be a healthy, strong plant to bear a lot of fruit for your season. So sit tight and watch the video. Okay, so here we are in my garden. This is one bed of 5 that I'm going to plant with tomatoes. This will be a whole row of tomatoes here, tomatoes there, tomatoes there. I have another bed right here with a walkway there, another bed here with a walkway here, and another bed here. I'm going to put ground cherries there as I had them last year. And then over at the corner of the garden over here, I'm planting cherry tomatoes because the employees that work in this office here walk frequently to the back and they can snack on these cherry tomatoes, and I'm going to plant over there. Then I'm going to plant the bumblebee series over there. So I wanted to show you what I've done so far to prepare this bed and what I'm going to do to prepare this bed. This is something that I've done every season, and I say every season because it's my 4th season putting tomatoes in the ground. So I have an auger bit, which has been a complete life changer for me. It looks like this. I think I found it on Amazon. I put it on my Ryobi drill, and it puts holes in the ground like this. I hope you can see that on camera. So this entire cup and the plant goes all the way down in that hole. So I just went through my entire bed, and I actually wet it with the hose, the soaker hose. I ran that for a long time, got those holes nice and soggy. Even though it's going to pour tonight, I wanted to get this bed really, really wet. Then I don't have to stress so much about the plants going into shock, being in dry soil. So I've done this in all my garden beds in the past years. I did it at Ginger Creek Church last week. But every one of these holes I dug about 1 foot deep, and it is soaked. That's something that I do recommend that you do before you plant your beds, your garden. So in these holes, and I've actually picked out the variety that I want to plant in this garden bed, I'm also going to put Garden Tone fertilizer. This is a granulated fertilizer. I have this little scooper, and I do about a half scoop of this. This is about I don't know, maybe like 2 tablespoons I'll put at the bottom of the hole, as well as crushed up eggshells. And so I'll take all of these plants out of those holes. I will put organic compost in there, which I'm using the Adoria Organics compost. This was gifted to me from Preston Dyer that actually came up with this company, and he actually grabs organic produce from all grocery stores in the local surrounding area and turns it into organic compost. So thank you, Preston, for donating this compost to me, because that will go in the holes as well. Which is pretty funny. When I dug all these holes out, it made just big piles of soil in my garden beds, which is fine. I'm just going to leave it in place and let it compost in, because I'm rebuilding my soil every year. As you see, I have a row of onions here. They're already bolting to flowers, which is fine. It brings the pollinators and alliums amongst your other plants. Puts off a scent, and it wards off pests. So I'm leaving them. They're not going to cast shade on my plants. I'm not too worried about it. And then you can also see some volunteer borage, some stupid dandelion. I haven't weeded any of these beds currently before I started planting them, because I just need to get these plants in the ground. I'll weed later. I'm also going to do a different type of irrigation system this year. I will not be using the soaker hose. I will be using drip tape from Haas Tool Supply, which I used that at the church garden last year, and it was fantastic. So let me set up the camera so I can show you how I plant this tomato plant. Okay, friends, so you know how I feel about shooting videos during the middle of the day when it's bright and hot and can't see anything, but I did it. I did 3 for you. I did a yellow Brandywine, and a Dr. Witchy's, and I'm going to continue to do this entire row and try to get them all in before we get this big rainstorm in about 2 hours. So I got about 60 plants to plant. I've dug all my holes. Now I just got to get to planting. So, all right, I tried to get the camera as close to the hole as possible so you can see exactly what I'm doing here. Let me get my gloves on. All right, here we go. So this hole actually is not deep enough. I want to show you very quickly. When you plant a tomato, you are going to plant it, if this is your plant, like this. Everybody kind of comes to my plant sales and they find the tallest plants and they say, I'll take the tall one. Well, that really doesn't matter, because your best chances of a healthy plant and a plant that is going to survive and give you tons of fruit is the plant that is buried the deepest. So even though if you look down this row, all these tomato plants are about 1 foot above the line, the soil line. Well, they're going to be planted to where they're only 6 inches above the soil line. So this plant right here that I have in front of me, this yellow Brandywine, I'll show you this really quick. See this little thing right here? That's what they consider a sucker. It's right here in what they call the armpit of the plant. Now the anatomy of a tomato, I'll show you quickly, is you have 2 main parts of a tomato plant. You have the main stem, which is obviously the main trunk. You have a sun arm, which is the arm that sticks straight out, that just has tons of leaves on it and says, bring me sun, photosynthesis. And then you have this right here, which is a sucker, and that needs to be removed. You want to only remove these suckers on plants that are indeterminate varieties. Do not do it on determinate varieties. If you don't know if your plant is a determinate or indeterminate, you can Google it and it will tell you online. Indeterminate tomatoes are tomatoes that will grow until it frosts and kills the plant. Determinate varieties kind of blossom all of their flowers, give you fruit all at one time. Those are determinate. There are benefits to growing both. So this plant is looking kind of sad because he's a little thirsty, but he'll get all that he needs here very soon. Look at the fuzz on the stem. When you look really close at a tomato vine, you see all those hairs? All of this? That's roots trying to adhere to the soil and get nutrients. Tomatoes were developed to grow laying down on the ground and just kind of vine out, kind of like a creeping Charlie. Then us humans came along and we changed that, and we decided to grow them vertical so we don't have our fruit on the ground and they don't rot and they're easier to pick. So for that being, I want to plant this root ball, as you see inside this plant, all of these roots, and I want to plant this plant as deep as I possibly can get it in this hole so that all of these hair follicles that are on the stem get to touch the soil and the nutrients that I'm going to put in that hole. So I do not believe that this plant hole is deep enough, so I'm going to go ahead and aug it out just a little bit more to make the plant hole a little bit deeper. Okay, that'll be just enough. So what I'm going to do is put that granulated fertilizer in there. handful of crushed eggshells. I'm also going to trim the plant. I'm going to take all the bottom sun branches off, just like this, and drop this down into the hole. I'm going to fill that with the organic compost. Pack that down in there really nicely. Scoot that soil around that tomato plant, just like that. Now it is ready to be watered, and it's already got a blossom. We're gonna get that thing off of there. We don't need blossoms yet. We need to focus on this thing getting tall. All right, and that's a yellow brandywine. First time growing this kind of tomato. I've never grown a yellow brandywine before, so I'm excited about that. Let's scoot over to this tomato and do the same thing for this guy. Here again, we're going to take off these sun arms. This one already broke. And we're going to plant the plant as close to up here as we possibly can. Let me see. That's a perfect depth. Get some of that loose soil out of the bottom. Granulated fertilizer down there, because as soon as a root ball touches it, it can get the nutrients from the granulated fertilizer. Eggshells down in there. Put the plant in there and some soil. Organic compost. I've even done this where I put Miracle-Gro garden soil and like a handful of mushroom compost. That works really well also. But since Adoria Organics gave me this soil, I'm definitely taking advantage of this. I mean, nothing better to put on your brand new tomato plants than organic material. So, all of this soil has been donated from a greenhouse as well as Adoria Organics. Creeping Charlie, you gotta go. You don't pay rent. There. And then, I already lost the plant marker. It's yellow brandywine. Probably buried it in there. It's a yellow brandywine. There. Okay, one more for you guys, and then we'll show you some more good stuff. Here. Dig out the soft stuff in here. See, I can plant this root ball just like that and have this plant that looks a foot tall, but I want to plant it as deep as I possibly can. Like I said, you can see all those little follicles on that tomato plant, on that stem. See it? I want all of that to touch the soil as much as possible, because I know it's just going to yield for me to have more yield on my tomatoes, as well as a healthier, stabler plant. So, Garden Tone granulated fertilizer, eggshells, plant marker over here. Trimming up this plant as well. I'm just going to take off 2 branches here and put that in the ground. Adoria Organics. The best part about this organic fertilizer or compost is it's just building these soil beds for me for years to come here in the garden, giving me organic matter. And that is a Dr. Witchies.